Kirralie Smith, the spokeswoman for Binary Australia. Kirralie, last week on the show, we briefly mentioned Binary's soon-to-be-released book titled Devastated, How Gender Ideology is Tearing Australian Families Apart. It tells the story of 9 families. What are the common themes that you've unearthed through this project?
Look, Lyle, this has been a really harrowing project, both for the families involved, obviously, and me and my team putting it together. But the themes are no surprise, really, in the sense that being online a lot, especially through the lockdowns, had a major impact on these families and their children. There's common themes of, obviously, you know, when someone's identity is being questioned, it's not because they feel like they're a boy or a girl. It's because they have had trauma or they have autism, there's depression, there's so many other factors. And in every single story, there are always underlying factors. Then pair that with online, just too many hours online, being groomed, being taken into groups and down rabbit holes where they shouldn't go, and then being betrayed by a political system, a health system and an education system that's been overrun by activists who capture these children, lie to them, deceive them, make them believe that all their problems will go away if they can just be separated from their families, if they could just change to the opposite sex and identify as something else, they'll identify out of their problems and into this, you know, stunning new world. And it's just not true. And in every single instance, they've been absolutely and utterly devastated, and the consequences are horrendous.
How did you come across these families, Kirralie? Was it hard to find people willing to go on the public record and document their stories in a book like this?
Look, unfortunately, it's not hard to find the families in the first place. They come to me. They've been contacting me over the past 5 or 6 years that I've been the spokeswoman for Binary. Their stories are utterly, you know, horrendous. Getting them to put their stories down and publish them has been a little bit more difficult, of course, because some of these families, you know, are still right in the midst of very raw and very vulnerable situations where they do have contact with their children and they want it to stay that way. But there's others in the book who no longer have contact with their children. Those children may now be adults, and they're just so keen to speak out and to save other families from the devastation that they've experienced. And so, you know, a number of these families will speak out publicly. We've changed the names of nearly everyone in the book, except for I think about 2, because they don't want to put their families more at risk.
So they're worried about cancel culture, Kirralie. They're worried about blowback, the backlash from the LGBTIQA plus political activists, that sort of thing.
Absolutely, and also in fear for their own children, that government agencies may get involved and remove the children from their care, or that the children
this is
themselves.
Shocking. What a shocking thing that people fear their own government about speaking out on this crazy ideology. Kirralie, you mentioned those common themes that you said before about autism and trauma and things like that. The research has shown this for years and years, of course, and it's had no impact on our politicians who still do nothing about this. But you also mentioned social media, which is topical this week because there's a bill going through the Parliament recommending banning 16-year-olds and under from social media. It plays a big role in grooming kids into gender fluid ideology. What do you think about that sort of a ban and that sort of an approach?
Well, I've never wavered from the position that the government is not my daddy and not your daddy, that we have the responsibility to parent our children. Now, I want to say the other common theme in this book is all the parents dearly love their children and have, you know, until a certain point had a great relationship with their kids. But it was really hard through COVID. We saw what happened with the lockdowns. We saw what happened when people had far too much access or time to spend online. But I think this ban, you know, and all of the other complications, the more government regulations we have, the more government regulations we need. So I don't think that's the answer in this case. But there has to be more education for parents, more awareness for parents in understanding what they allow their children to have access to, because it is extremely harmful.
Yeah, absolutely. Kirralie, the book's being launched this week in Canberra. How can people get a hold of it?
from binary.org.au. There will be a page up a bit later this week, and you'll be able to get access to the book. And we're really encouraging people, don't get just one for yourself, but get one for other people that you know, whether it's leaders in your community, libraries, school, like educators, whoever it is, because these stories must be told. These people's voices have been silent for too long, and there's thousands more that echo the same story but aren't able to speak out.
That's right. This is an epidemic. Well, let's really hope that this launch on Thursday goes well and it gets some great media attention. I know you'll be down there in Parliament House with some of the terrific politicians that have been supporting you in this cause. Kirralee, just moving on to some other things. You and I have talked a lot about the Trump effect on the gender debate. And in this past week, we've seen this in play, despite the fact that it is still 2 months before Donald Trump returns to the White House. Here's the Speaker of the US House of Representatives, Mike Johnson.
A man is a man and a woman is a woman, and a man cannot become a woman. That said, I also believe, that's what Scripture teaches, what I just said, but I also believe that we treat everybody with dignity. And so we can do and believe all those things at the same time.
Now, Kirralee, Trump might have won in a landslide on a platform of normalising gender again, but the woke left is not giving up without a fight. The reason Johnson was making that statement last week on the US Capitol was because he's been forced to implement a policy to protect girls and women. What can you tell us about that?
I mean, can you believe that statement even has to be made, that a man's a man and a woman's a woman and no one can change their sex? But a congressperson has been elected, a congressman who calls himself Sarah McBride. He identifies as a woman, and he's boasted on television and social media that he's used the female toilets for the last decade and no one's had a problem with it, which is just not true. And then Senator Nancy Mace, her name is, she has come out swinging along with Mike Johnson, and said this is unacceptable, that it has to begin at the Capitol Hill, that he cannot use female bathrooms because he's not female. But this will go a lot further, Lyle. This isn't where it will end, but it's where it started, which is fantastic. Sarah McBride can do whatever he likes in terms of wearing a frock or whatever, but he's not a woman and he doesn't have the right to colonise women's spaces.
Well, I absolutely agree with you, Kirralee, but Sarah McBride has set himself up, and you and I are using the correct pronouns for this biological male. Sarah McBride is the first so-called transgender, they call themselves a transgender woman, to be elected to the US Congress. He's a Democrat from the state of Delaware, and he's setting himself up now for a clash between Mike Johnson and this new policy that's been brought in. Let's take a look.
I can't believe I'm asking you this, but I'm going to. What bathrooms will you use when you're in the Capitol?
The bathrooms that I've used in the state Senate, the bathrooms that I use when I'm going out to dinner here in Wilmington, I'll continue to use the bathrooms that I've used for the last decade plus.
And that's the ladies' room.
Yeah. Now, Kirralee, if this bathroom war is not won on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., girls and women will not be safe anywhere, will they?
That's correct. Like, male entitlement doesn't give you the right just to colonise or dominate in women's spaces. And whether it's the bathroom, the sporting field, the rape crisis shelters, prisons, wherever it is, males are not female. We have the divisions in certain places for specific reasons, and that's for the dignity, safety and privacy and fairness of all, not just women, but men and women. And so this battle has to go all the way. I'm confident that Trump and others now, because of the Trump effect, will have the courage and the fortitude and the integrity to follow through and to ensure that women's spaces are for females only once again.
Well, Sarah McBride takes up his position on January 3 when the new Congress comes into play. Do you think we'll see a situation where Mike Johnson, who said that this new policy is enforceable, where we could see a situation where the Capitol Police are called in to take Sarah McBride out of the women's and girls' bathrooms on Capitol Hill?
Oh, look, well, nothing's beyond the US, is it? Like, the craziest things come out of that place. So it's quite possible. It's already been made clear to Sarah McBride that he has access to many, many toilets,
That's
including
right.
the one that will be in his own office. So It will be a political stunt if he does that, and he will be called out for it if he does.
Very good. Well, we'll certainly continue to follow that story. Kirralee, all the best with the launch of the book Devastated on Thursday at Parliament House in Canberra. We'll look forward to chatting to you about that and other things again next week. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for your support, and I look forward to it, Lyle.
Well, thanks so much for your company again this week. You can follow me during the week on X at Lyle Shelton, and there's plenty of political commentary on the Family First Party blog. That's familyfirstparty.org.au. Don't forget you can make ADH TV your home of common sense news and uncensored analysis. Thanks to Charles Noble and Dominica Fernal for production. Until next week, keep speaking up and keep pushing back.